Why is Japan suddenly pushing for an Asian NATO? And what's with their nuclear weapons request? It sounds like a scene out of a political thriller, but it's unfolding in real time. With an assertive new Prime Minister Shiro Ishiba at the helm, Japan is taking bold steps to protect itself from some aggressive neighbors: China, Russia, and North Korea. Let's dive into the real story behind Japan's moves, the threats they face, and the challenges ahead. A new alliance. Japan's vision for an Asian NATO. When you hear NATO, what comes to mind? Most think of Europe's united front that's maintained peace through collective defense. Imagine that concept shifting to Asia, an Asian NATO, a regional alliance to deter threats in a volatile landscape. That's the vision former Japanese Defense Minister Shiro Ishiba has been championing, and it's sparking debate. Let's rewind to February 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. The world witnessed a harsh lesson. Small nations without strong alliances are vulnerable to powerful aggressors. For Ishiba, the parallel is clear. Ukraine's plight today could mirror Asia's future tomorrow, with China flexing its military muscle in the Indo-Pacific, asserting territorial claims, and ramping up threats toward Taiwan. Japan feels the pressure of being on the front lines. Ishiba has proposed a collective defense pact involving Japan, South Korea, India, and Australia to counter China's growing influence, with a NATO-style commitment to mutual defense. He views this alliance as essential for survival, arguing that without such a regional mechanism, countries would remain vulnerable to China's rise. Turning this vision into reality is challenging due to historical tensions between Japan and South Korea, India's preference for strategic autonomy, and Japan's post-WW II constitution, which limits its military to self-defense, creating legal obstacles for joining a mutual defense pact. Despite challenges, Ishiba's proposal highlights Japan's growing push for leadership in regional security. While not all political leaders agree, his ideas reflect a shift in Japan's approach to rising threats and the increasing need for regional cooperation. The NATO blueprint. Why Ishiba thinks it'll work. What makes NATO so effective? It's more than just a military pact. It thrives on the principle of collective defense. Under Article 5, an attack on one member is treated as an attack on all. This cornerstone of unity has only been invoked once, in response to the 9/11's attacks. Post 9/11, NATO's members banded together, sending a strong message to any potential aggressors: target one, and you face us all. This solidarity is what Shiro Ishiba envisions for Asia. If China ever considers invading Taiwan or threatening Japan, the presence of a regional alliance could force it to think twice. Ishiba's vision includes nations such as Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and potentially India. These countries share concerns about China's territorial ambitions, and each brings unique strategic value to the table. Taiwan is a vital geopolitical buffer against China's expansion in the Indo-Pacific. South Korea, with its technological prowess and strategic location, offers critical capabilities. India, with its massive military and influence, adds heft to the alliance. The Philippines, situated near contested waters, holds significant tactical importance. However, replicating NATO's success in Asia is a steep challenge. NATO thrives on shared political systems and geographical proximity, but Asia's cultural, political, and strategic diversity creates a much more fragmented landscape. Additionally, many countries are reluctant to commit to an alliance that could drag them into disputes they see as unrelated to their own security interests. A strategic web of allies, the Quad and beyond. What if Japan can't establish its Asian NATO right away? Does that leave it defenseless? Not quite. Japan already has significant alliances, such as the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, Quad, which includes Japan, the US, Australia, and India. The Quad wasn't originally focused on military defense. Initially, it centered around issues like climate change, disaster relief, and humanitarian aid. However, as China's growing influence and territorial ambitions became more concerning, the Quad evolved. In 2020, the four nations conducted joint naval exercises for the first time, and by 2021, the group was taking a more direct stance against China's regional actions. Former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe strongly supported the Quad, seeing it as essential for ensuring a free and open Indo-Pacific. Today, Japan looks to the Quad as a key counterbalance to China's power. However, while the Quad is a significant strategic grouping, it's still an informal arrangement with no binding security commitments like NATO. The absence of formal defense obligations means it isn't as robust as a NATO-style alliance. Even though the Quad isn't the fully fledged defense pact Ishiba envisions, it remains a critical pillar in Japan's defense strategy. Furthermore, the US has been working to strengthen its ties in the region, including joint defense efforts with Japan and the Philippines. Japan's involvement in these initiatives is laying the groundwork for a stronger collective defense network. Japan's nuclear dilemma, walking the line between pacifism and survival. What happens when a nation known for its unwavering pacifism faces threats that demand a nuclear deterrent? For Japan, this isn't just a debate. It's a battle for identity and survival. Japan's steadfast anti-nuclear stance, enshrined in its 3 non-nuclear principles: no building, no owning, and no permitting nuclear weapons on its soil, is deeply rooted in its post-war identity. This policy reflects the national trauma of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and is integral to Japan's pacifist constitution and global reputation. However, Japan's regional security environment is rapidly evolving. Surrounded by nuclear-capable neighbors, China expanding its arsenal, North Korea testing missiles, and Russia asserting its military strength, Japan's principled stance feels increasingly vulnerable. In 2022, former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe disrupted the long-standing silence by proposing Japan consider nuclear sharing. His suggestion provoked controversy, but also forced Japan to question whether it could maintain its security without revisiting its defense policies. Abe wasn't alone. Tatsuo Fukuda, an influential figure in Japan's ruling party, argued that even taboo topics like nuclear weapons must be addressed when national safety is at risk. Shiro Ishiba, another prominent leader, has proposed adopting a NATO-style nuclear sharing system. Under this arrangement, non-nuclear nations like Germany participate in nuclear planning and training, relying on allied nuclear capabilities for deterrence. Ishiba argues that a similar framework in Asia could serve as a powerful warning to potential aggressors, particularly China. Yet, Japan faces significant constitutional and societal hurdles. Its post-WW2 constitution restricts its military to self-defense, and public opinion remains deeply anti-nuclear due to historical experiences. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, a native of Hiroshima, has strongly defended Japan's pacifist principles. Despite these challenges, some experts believe compromises are possible. James Schaff, from the US-Japan Next Alliance Initiative, suggests a model like the US-South Korea alliance. This approach would ensure nuclear readiness without Japan needing its own arsenal or hosting foreign nuclear weapons, thus avoiding political and public backlash. Japan's dilemma underscores a broader question: how to adapt its defense strategies to the changing geopolitical landscape while preserving its identity. The decisions Japan makes now will not only shape its role in Asia, but also set a global precedent for reconciling ideals with practical security needs. China's rising power, a game changer. China's rise as a global power is reshaping the security landscape in Asia. For decades, Beijing focused on economic growth, keeping its military relatively modest. But in recent years, that approach has shifted dramatically. The Pentagon estimates that China's nuclear arsenal, currently at around 500 warheads, could triple by 2035. Beijing has also ramped up its military exercises near Taiwan, Japan, and the South China Sea, signaling its readiness to assert territorial claims. For Japan, these developments are deeply unsettling. A militarized China poses a direct threat not only to Taiwan, but also to Japan's southern islands. Adding to the complexity is China's growing alignment with Russia. There are reports suggesting that Moscow may be assisting Beijing in expanding its nuclear capabilities. If true, this would represent a significant escalation in the regional arms race. The unholy trinity: Russia, North Korea, and the shadow of collaboration. What's worse than one threat on the horizon? 3 threats are working together in the shadows. Russia and North Korea might not be official nuclear allies, but their actions suggest a worrying overlap. Russia has long been a dominant nuclear force, modernizing its arsenal and expanding its capabilities. With over 4,400 warheads and a legacy of nuclear triads, it has cemented its place at the top of the nuclear hierarchy. But as the Ukraine war drags on, speculation about Russia's desperation has grown. Some believe Moscow might be trading nuclear technology for North Korean artillery and missiles, a deal as sinister as it sounds. Meanwhile, North Korea under Kim Jong-un has been busy perfecting its intercontinental ballistic missiles. April 2023 marked a chilling milestone when North Korea successfully tested an ICBM with solid fuel propellant, a critical upgrade for easier and quicker deployment. Estimates suggest that Pyongyang might already have 40 to 60 nuclear warheads, with others speculating that number could be as high as 100. For Japan, the convergence of these nuclear threats amplifies the urgency to revisit its policies. Denial is no longer an option when faced with such coordinated and evolving dangers. Japan's crossroads, principles versus survival. What would you do if your survival depended on abandoning long-held beliefs? That's the dilemma Japan faces as regional threats escalate. The concept of an Asian NATO, a regional alliance to counter threats from China, Russia, and North Korea, is bold but fraught with challenges. Historical tensions, particularly between key potential allies like Japan and South Korea, complicate close cooperation. India, another pivotal player, maintains its preference for strategic autonomy, avoiding formal alliances. Despite these hurdles, the need for regional collaboration is growing. A significant milestone occurred in 2023, with a trilateral summit between Japan, South Korea, and the United States. Leaders pledged to enhance military exercises and improve intelligence sharing, marking incremental progress toward a cohesive coalition. Domestically, Japan faces heated debates over its defensive strategies. The Japanese Innovation Party advocates for revisiting the country's pacifist policies, including nuclear sharing, inspired partly by Western responses to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Conversely, the Constitutional Democratic Party remains committed to Japan's post-WO2 defense-only stance and refuses to entertain nuclear discussions. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is navigating this divided landscape. While publicly affirming Japan's pacifist principles, his administration is privately grappling with the growing threats in the region, prompting difficult discussions about future defense policies. Public opinion mirrors this divide. Older generations, shaped by the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, strongly oppose nuclear options. Meanwhile, younger citizens, acutely aware of nuclear-armed neighbors like China, North Korea, and Russia, are increasingly concerned about Japan's vulnerability. Japan stands at a critical juncture, balancing its pacifist ideals with the pressing realities of an evolving geopolitical environment. Decisions on joining an Asian NATO, re-evaluating nuclear policies, or strengthening alliances will shape its future and influence regional stability. The global community closely observes as Japan determines how to safeguard its security while preserving its identity. Japan at a crossroads. Japan stands at a historic crossroads. The push for an Asian NATO reflects not just a reaction to external threats, but also a desire to redefine Japan's role on the global stage. The obstacles are immense: reconciling historical grievances, overcoming domestic opposition, and persuading other Asian nations to join an alliance that could make them targets. Yet, the stakes couldn't be higher. China, Russia, and North Korea are rapidly altering the balance of power in Asia. For Japan, the choices it makes now, whether to pursue nuclear sharing, deepen alliances, or reshape its military, will determine not only its future, but the security of the entire region. As the world watches, one question remains: can Japan transform its vision into reality? And if it does, what will that mean for Asia's fragile peace? By the end of this story, one thing becomes clear: Japan's vision for an Asian NATO isn't just a response to the growing threats in its backyard. It's a bold move to redefine its role on the global stage. And as the world watches, one question remains: will this vision become a reality?